welcome to another great episode of Good Evening KU. I'm Sky Conley.
I'm Griffin Hughes. We're right back from spring break, and you can look at being back from spring break one of two ways. You can either look at it as, oh no, I've got the midterms that didn't come before spring break, or we only have less than 7 weeks till summer.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
I know, right? It's insane. I mean, I'm a freshman, and it just the year just sped all the way through.
Especially this semester, I feel like. But
yeah, no,
I don't have any problem with that.
Nah, not really. I can't wait to be home. Summer, chill out. Pretty much do the spring break thing for about 3 months as opposed to a week. So, speaking of spring break, what did you do?
Well, the week leading into spring break, I got a little bit under the weather. So I started out my spring break recovering from that back at home. Didn't really do much. I was able to get out a little bit once I was feeling a little bit more healthy. So glad I had that. But most of the time I was just sleeping. One of the adventures that I had is that I went just a little bit north of my hometown of Independence, Kansas. And this is at Sunset at Elk City Lake. Didn't really need the beach or anything too fancy to get a shot like this. Happy to have that in my own backyard, and that's basically all that I did for spring break.
That looks pretty good to me. Definitely looks like somewhere I'd like to spend a spring break. I mean, you know me, I was watching basketball. It was all about the tournament. I was watching every game. I was soaking it up. And then when Virginia lost, I cried because they were my champion.
Really?
So they lost. They went down to Michigan State. I cried. I had to start watching other sports because I was just going to cry some more for Virginia. But in the meantime, I managed to spend a little time with my family. There I am. It's always great to spend time with family. I don't really get to see them that much. So we went up to Estes Park in Colorado and, just had some fun. We were roller skating. The roller skates got cut off in that picture, but we went roller skating. That's what we did. And my sister used to be a figure skater. So.
Oh, wow. Were you there the entire time, or were you home also?
I was about a weekend.
Okay.
We spent one weekend there, and then went home. I got to see my friends. I spent some time in Colorado Springs, spent some time in Denver. But, there's more people than us on the staff. And Bella had, we'll see her a little bit later in the show doing Bella Without Borders, that amazing segment all about the Middle East and everything. Well, she had a pretty interesting spring break herself, as well as the rest of our staff did.
Here's Abby.
Oh, wow, it's Abby.
Abby's doing I believe, a wall push-up thanks to CrossFit. Wish I had that physical ability. Maybe I will later.
Maybe you just need to get up at 7 a.m. and work out every day like she did.
Got to be like Fergie and work on my fitness, Who else do we have? We have some other images.
Well, we've got, Candace, she went to a record store and she picked out a couple records, and this one,
Drizzy.
Drake, he's not my favorite, but people do like him. So, I'm not really the Drake kind of guy, but this isn't a music review show, so I don't get paid for those kinds of opinions. Look at this. This is our wonderful director. She spent her time directing for baseball for Rock Chalk Video, and that's what it looks like for her. That looks like too many buttons for me, is what that looks like. That's I talk. That's what I do. I don't push buttons.
Looks like all she had was all work and no play, but hopefully Laura had some play.
Well, at least she got to do a little bit of baseball. So
yeah.
If you're like me, you love the game of baseball. So she got to watch that all weekend. And Danny, who's another director, she's my director on Good Morning KU 10 at 10 on Monday. She was also doing a lot of baseball related stuff. So her picture was that too. So lots of Rock Chalk people representing baseball.
Have another picture from our wonderful producer Libby, who went to Chicago. I believe we were talking before the show, and this is at Millennium Park. So there's Chicago.
That just looks awesome. Just to be there, just to experience what we've got, and Chicago is just such a unique place, and there's a lot of people at KU that are from Chicago. So it's just such a unique and fun place, and it just looks beautiful. And how about that weather in March? I don't live in Chicago. I haven't been to Chicago in a long time, but I think that's better weather than one can expect in March. And I think we got one more. Rosie, she's not here tonight, but she's holding a monkey. So that's how her spring break went. I think that's all that needs to be said about that, is she's holding a monkey.
Yeah.
About it.
Yeah.
you know, we've got a great show coming on up. We've got an interview. We've got Bella Without Borders, obviously. We've got Paige's Points. You know, we've got everything. Plus, we got a little bit of news for you. So, I mean, what else can you say? It's going to be a tremendous show. Stick around after the break. Sky, you got a little interview.
Interview with KU Dining Services. You don't want to miss it.
Absolutely. Stick around after the break. We'll be right back.
Where you go to college makes a statement about you. This place will become a part of you, your identity for life. The University of Kansas, a great place to be you.
Welcome back to Good Evening KU. I'm Sky Conley, and here with us today is Alicia Stoltz from KU Dining Services.
Thank you for having me, Sky.
So to start off, KU Dining Services, we were talking before the show. It's a little kind of complicated to explain, but in a nutshell, can you tell us what KU Dining Services does and sort of what the purpose and mission is?
Sure. You know, KU Dining Services is a self-operated dining department. And what that means is that we're not contracted. We do everything ourselves, and we do all of the residential dining centers. We do all of the retail cafes and snack bars across campus. We also do campus catering. There's 22 locations across campus.
Wow.
So we are basically everywhere that you can possibly imagine. You can't walk down Jayhawk Boulevard and walk past a building and not realize that there's something with dining in there.
Right.
And we are here for the students. That is our purpose. We just redid our mission statement and our core purpose. Our core purpose is now that we are the campus kitchen table. And we mean that by, you know, the kitchen table, that's where you have your conversations, that's where you talk about your day, and we wanted to be that for the students. And with that, our values are people and environment and all of our things that we do in that go along with that. So you name it, food-wise, we do it.
What do you oversee with your job at KU Dining Services?
Me personally, since I'm the assistant director for retail dining, any dining operation on campus that's not within a residence hall.
Okay.
So the cafes in the Union, the Underground, the 7 snack bars across campus, that's what I oversee.
Okay. How long have you been working with KU Dining Services?
I have to think about that. I started in May of 2006, so I'm in 9, going on 10 years, I think. So you know, some days it seems like forever, and some days it seems like I just started yesterday. It depends on what I'm doing.
Okay. On average, how many students a day take advantage of KU Dining Services?
See, now it depends on where you are. I would say in Mrs. E's, up on Daisy Hill, which is our largest residential dining center, they feed probably 3,500 to 4,500 students all day. So that's breakfast, lunch, dinner. Now, if you go to the Underground, which is the largest retail cafe on campus, we run somewhere between 2,700 and 3,200 transactions a day.
Wow.
And that doesn't even include all the other ones.
What kind of foods can students expect to have? Are there like any healthy alternatives for the health nuts out there? What can we expect?
We run the gambit from your chicken tenders and burgers to your salad bars and everything in between. And that's one of the things that we're very proud of, is that we offer so many alternatives and so many choices. If you're a vegan, if you're a vegetarian, if you have a special dietary requirement, if you have a food allergy for any reason, we have those items available. And a lot of times the students will come in and they'll say, oh, wait, you just don't have anything. A lot of it is because they're not seeing actually what we have, because there are so many choices.
Right.
So a lot of that is, talk to the person behind that Brella's counter, and find out how can you make that sandwich or that wrap better for me. Whether it's taking off the cheese, taking off the dressing, crunchy chicken cheddar wrap, we're not gonna mess with that one. We're gonna keep that one. Don't mess with the crunchy chicken cheddar wrap. But there's a lot of alternatives out there, and they are available in every location, including our snack bars.
Right. Do you have any specific favorite things to eat here?
Oh my goodness. Again, you cannot come to KU and you can't go to KU Dining without having the crunchy chicken cheddar wrap. I mean, that is the icon of campus. It's phenomenal. It really is.
Well, I've been here since August, and I actually have not had that
Well,
yet.
then we're just going to have to get you downstairs into the market so that you can get one of those. You come see me. I'll hook you up with a crunchy chicken cheddar wrap.
That sounds
But
awesome.
there's so many different things that are out there, and every location has their specialty items. You can get cafe spice Indian food at the Underground. You can get barbecue, fresh smoked meats and everything up at Mrs. E's with a house-made barbecue sauce that Travis Fell has made up there for them. And we have our panini concept down here in the market. So it depends on where you go, what the most fascinating item is.
I understand that KU Dining Services also caters.
We do. We have our full-service catering operation on campus, and we do everything from what we call just one frill, which is can you bring me just the basics,
Okay.
and our catering staff would drop that off for you. We have our pick-me-ups that you can get from our roastery coffee locations, and then to those huge events that you see on campus that we do for the chancellor, we do a lot of things at the Lead Center, at the Hall Center, at the Dole Center, here in the ballroom for 5 people, for thousands of people. We do all of that on campus. We do all of that. We also do all of the suites at Memorial Stadium during football season.
Wow.
And we do hospitality on the hill. So we feed all of those as well through our catering department.
Very busy lady.
We are very busy. It's not just me. We have a team. I have a fabulous team in retail. My counterpart has a fabulous team in residential. KU Dining, we all come together. We work as a team. We bring it all.
Okay. If someone wanted to get a hold of you or KU Dining Services, how can they do that?
The best way is through kudining.com. You can also find us through the unions, the Kansas Memorial Unions Corporation, through their website, through the union's website. You can always find it says EAT, and you can scroll down and find KU Dining. We're on Facebook. We are on Twitter. Like I said, you can't walk down Jayhawk Boulevard without seeing a building where some sort of dining operation is in. So we're here.
Exactly.
Can't miss us.
Anything else that you'd like to add?
Oh wow, I don't know. There's so many things. We are here for the students. We really are. We are the largest employer of students on campus. Everything that we do with the students in mind first, whether that's wellness or sustainability or any of the initiatives that we have. It's for them because that we're here to be a part of their campus experience.
Because we got to eat.
Exactly. You have to eat, and you have to eat good food and food that is good for you. And every now and then you're going to binge out on the chicken tenders and the pizza, and that's fine. But it's sustenance. But at the same time, it's those experiences that you have with your friends and your study time, so you can sit down and you can have that. That's what we're here for.
All right. Alicia Stoltz from KU Dining Services, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to have Bella Without Borders. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me with this segment of Bella Without Borders. But before we get started, I want to mention that I did go on spring break too. I went home to New Jersey. That's home for me. Where'd you go?
Oh, I just went back on home to Topeka, but I spent some of the spring break here in Lawrence.
Oh, that's very nice. To tell you why Ryan is here, he's an KUJH anchor, and he's also a political science major. So today we're going to talk a little bit about Netanyahu and post-election, pre-election, what is going on, and the relationship that the United States has with Israel. So if you could tell, our audience, what is this relationship?
Well, Israel and the United States have been allies for the better part of half of a century now. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu recently won his incumbent race for Prime Minister of Israel. But the interesting thing about Israel and the United States is that while they are very vocal allies, they've also been very publicly annoyed with one another in recent headlines.
And not to cut you off, I was just wondering, now, is that, you think, an issue between the U.S. and Israel, or is that something Obama and Netanyahu?
It's almost assuredly a mixture of both. While Israel is always in kind of a precarious situation in the Middle East with Jewish versus Islamic relations in the Fertile Crescent, there's also an issue of Netanyahu politicizing that very same thing, especially on U.S. soil, because as I'm sure you remember, and I'm sure the viewers remember, very recently Benjamin Netanyahu spoke in front of Congress, which some people saw as an Israeli slight against the president. However, I see it as something completely different. I think that that was a congressional Republican slight against the president, as they didn't throw the invitation through the White House, but instead it was direct, which is basically unprecedented. So while Netanyahu was using Congress and his speech as sort of a political grandstand for his upcoming prime minister election, he was hitting the same topics that the United States has always spoken about, where there would be a two-state solution to the Israel-Palestine conflict, and that the overarching message would be peace in the Middle East.
Right.
But go ahead.
Which is, I find ironic. Back in 2009, Netanyahu, that's when he decided that we're going to have a two-state solution. The irony is that it's 2015, and there's not really any signs for that. And to talk a little bit about, as we know that it's been decades, it's been years that there's this conflict in the Middle East, and I think that the United States is, really good with supporting, Netanyahu in Israel's. What have it. But this past summer, it seemed to be inflamed, right?
Yeah.
So, talking about how these countries, they're like brothers, right? They're like family. Netanyahu just came out a couple days ago from an interview with MSNBC and said, America needs Israel, Israel needs America.
Right.
Although it's funny because I feel, to talk about a little bit, pre-election, Netanyahu said that, promised a no Palestinian state.
Right. When it comes to Netanyahu and his claims about Palestine and the Western world, we have to remember that it's very difficult to separate his plans for the future and his political agenda. The idea is that by saying that there would be no Palestinian state as a result of him winning the prime minister election, nearly 4 out of 5 people in Israel consider themselves hardline Israelis and are fairly offended even at the idea of a Palestinian state occupying an area near Israel.
Right.
Because they feel that Israel as a entire nation is theirs just by virtue of it belonging to them. So making a statement that is very openly anti-Palestine does two things for Netanyahu politically. First of all, it increases his political capital in his country and would help him win his prime minister election, but also which it did, but in a foreign sense. The Western world and the United Nations, who have been very harsh against the Netanyahu administration in Israel, will see this as him backing out of his agreements before, of what he has said before, and his focus on a peaceful resolution. A two-state resolution has become a one-state resolution. And it's at that point that you can't differentiate between political grandstanding and leadership.
Right, and it's interesting, we talked a little bit about before, is that the United States has supported Israel, right? And now why is Netanyahu, kind of, it's like he's putting it, in our faces, or kind of, it's rude to say the least. So how do you feel about that? That he kind of drew that line, went over that barrier?
Well, the United States is in a precarious position when it comes to Middle Eastern relations, and especially Israel, because while the United States and the Obama administration in particular has gone on record to say that they are firmly committed to a peaceful resolution of any conflict in the Middle East, we also have a debt, as we are allies, to Israel. So when Israel and their ideas for the region don't coincide with our ideas for the region, it's like Netanyahu said, we're like a family that doesn't always get along, but we still have this commitment to see for the best for one another.
Right. And I have a video now to check out, how the White House responded.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has apologized to Israeli Arabs for election rhetoric that offended members of the community and drew international rebuke. Netanyahu, whose Likud party won re-election last week, met members of the Arab community and in particular retracted his warning that Arabs were voting in droves. However, in the United States, an Obama advisor said Netanyahu's comments could not be ignored.
After the election, the Prime Minister said that he had not changed his position. But for many in Israel and in the international community, such contradictory comments call into question his commitment to a two-state solution, as did his suggestion that the construction of settlements has a strategic purpose of dividing Palestinian communities. We cannot simply pretend that these comments were never made.
Netanyahu's election success has rung alarm bells in Washington as he appears to have moved further to the right than before. Of most concern have been his remarks dismissing a two-state solution, which has long been a cornerstone of U.S. peacemaking efforts.
You know, I find that video very interesting, as it shows that Western countries, you know, including ourselves, that we're not taking that lightly. You know, that he said something, he goes back on his word, and now he's saying that he doesn't want a one state, you know, that he does want two states. So it's hard to trust, you know, someone like that. We're supposed to be, you know, allies with this country. How are we going to get, you know, past this barrier?
Well, I think that as far as the United States feels about Israel, and especially the Netanyahu administration, a lot of what we're seeing as promises to the Western world and the UN now appear to be, you know, political gain. And that's something that, for lack of a better term, really hurts our feelings. I mean, it's the same way with the accusations about the Iran nuclear talks. It's almost unprecedented how two good allies like this can be so very in a very much public dispute for the entire world to see. Again, I'm sure you know, and the viewers also know, that Netanyahu and Israel were publicly accused of spying on the talks about the Iran nuclear program.
By the U.S.
Right. It would be one thing if they were accused of that by Iran, who they are very openly against, but they were accused of that by the people who they say are their most formidable and most valued allies.
Right.
Something like this to happen so openly is almost unheard of.
Right. Yeah. You know, I don't know if there's, you know, I don't know if we have an answer for why Netanyahu's doing what he's doing. But, you know, I think that when we get more information, we'll definitely update you via Twitter. You could follow Ryan or myself. Thank you so much for joining in, and we'll get back to you.
Where you go to college makes a statement about you. This place will become a part of you, your identity for life. The University of Kansas, a great place to be you.
Hi, I'm Abby Weaver, and this is your Good Evening KU News Update. A Germanwings plane carrying 150 people crashed into the French Alps Tuesday morning, leaving no survivors. According to CNN.com, the Airbus A320 aircraft carried mostly German, Spanish, and Turkish passengers, including 16 German high school students and 2 teachers. The plane was flying from Barcelona to Dusseldorf. The cause of the crash is under further investigation. A murder suspect escaped from a psychiatric hospital early Tuesday morning in West Virginia and is still on the run. According to NBCNews.com, 30-year-old Rocco Zuccaro was charged with shooting and killing a man in February 2013 and was still awaiting trial. Police have notified key witnesses in the trial and are still looking for Zuccaro. After Deborah Mielke spent 22 years on death row, a judge finally ruled that she is innocent and dismissed all charges against her. According to CNN.com, the Arizona woman was initially sentenced to death for conspiring to kill her son in 1989. Mielke is just the second woman exonerated from death row in United States history. Kansas Governor Sam Brownback has decided that today, March 25th, is Military Day in Kansas. According to Lawrence Journal-World, Brownback intends on meeting with his military council in Topeka today after signing the proclamation. Governor Brownback hopes that this day will lead to better recognition of Kansas's military members. Only 2 Big 12 teams remain in the 2015 NCAA men's basketball tournament, heading into the Sweet 16. West Virginia will face off against the top-seeded Kentucky Wildcats on tomorrow night, and the Oklahoma Sooners will take on Michigan State Spartans Friday night. The conference entered the tournament with 7 teams, however, only 2 emerged after the first weekend. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back with your page update.
Welcome back. I'm Paige Admany, and this is another edition of Paige's Points. Today I'll be telling you a little bit more about the beginnings of Memorial Stadium. In 1920, the need for a new athletic stadium was beginning to become apparent with the poor state of McCook Fields, which teams previously played on. And who should step forward to oversee this task? None other than the university's Director of Athletics, Dr. Forrest C. Fogg Allen, a future basketball coach. As campaign efforts began, Fogg Allen famously said, "Rome had her Colosseum, Kansas must have a stadium." KU formally opened the $1 million drive on November 18, 1920, to raise support. School spirit and promotion helped to push the campaign, which came to an end in 1925, just $35,000 short of $1 million. The actual construction of the stadium, however, began on July 16, 1921. 16 months later, Memorial Stadium was officially dedicated on November 11, 1922, Armistice Day. The stadium immortalizes the 130 KU men and women who died in the First World War. A total of 50,250 fans can squeeze into the stadium, and a record 51,500 fit to watch KU beat K-State 25-18 in 1973. Today, Memorial Stadium has seen a number of victories and losses in football and track, and still stands as a reminder of the students who have come before us. With the 100th anniversary of World War I coming up last year, the stadium will now be holding celebrations in honor of the war and the memorial for which the stadium stands. This has been another edition of Paige's Points. Don't forget to follow Media Crossroads on Twitter, and catch us live again tomorrow morning at 10.
Yeah.